Hello, I'm Jeff Livingston, the historian with the Hawaiian Railway Society. Today I'm going to do part one of a two-part presentation on the restorations that the Society is involved with. Restoration is one of the major factors of the Hawaiian Railway Society, although we are best known for the train rides that we give 5 times a week, or charters whenever you desire. But restoration plays a major part in what we do, and there's a small cadre of folks that pursue this to the very best of their ability at every chance that they have. When the Society first was founded, the very first artifact that was acquired by the Hawaiian Railway Society was Wailua Agricultural Company Locomotive No. 6, WACO 6. In this photograph, she's still in front of the admin building at Wailua Agriculture, and if you look closely, you'll see that there's no door on the front of the boiler. The bottom edge of the water tank is just rusted away to nothing. The locomotive was transported from here by flatbed to Lu'u'ulei Naval Ammunition Depot, where over the course of the next, I think it was 87 weekends, members of the Hawaiian Railway Society restored WACO 6 to operation capability. This was really a labor of love. To save this locomotive meant the world to the guys who were there at the time, means a world to us that followed behind. And there are still, fortunately, members of the Society that participated in this original restoration project and can be justly proud of the locomotive. Now, WACO 6, when completed at Lu'u'ulei, was just an outstanding, shiny, bright, and under steam locomotive. You may notice there are some differences between this photograph and the previous one. The water tank, or the saddle tank that sits over the boiler, has been shortened, and an air compressor, in railroad terms, an air pump, has been added to the locomotive. These may not appear originally, or at first glance, to be original. However, WACO 6 had been modified in the course of its lifetime and did carry an air compressor. One was added by Hawaiian Railway Society to provide train air so that the locomotive could provide air to any passenger cars following behind. For a plantation locomotive, that wasn't necessary because the cane cars didn't have anything but manual brakes. Unfortunately, WACO had a problem with one of her boiler fittings and was taken out of steam and out of service. The fitting was tried to be repaired, and the repair was unsuccessful, and the boiler lost its certification. Over the ensuing years, she did deteriorate a little more, and about 2013, a major push was made because WACO 6 is our flagship. It is our flagship piece of equipment and part of our logo. We were going to bring WACO 6 back with a brand new boiler, and extensive work was undertaken. Now at Ewa, having moved there from Lu'u'ulei, WACO was in the engine shed, and you can see repairs, that red line underneath the tank. Repairs are in progress on the saddle tank. It always seems to rust at that very same spot. And it wasn't too long after that that the boiler was laid totally bare. All the measurements were taken, and a new boiler was placed under contract. A considerable amount of money was paid up front for a new boiler, and unfortunately the company that was tasked with building the boiler was unable to deliver. That was a tough lesson to learn. We do not believe it was done with any forethought or knowledge, but WACO 6, having had all of its mechanicals redone by HRS and ready for a new boiler to be placed back under steam and in operation, the project turned out to be a failure. So the original boiler is still in place. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a current photograph of WACO 6, but let me assure you, she looks every bit as good as she did at ʻŌlelo when she was finished. She is in our engine shed. If you come out to take a train ride, you're more than welcome to visit her. WACO 6 is one of the very few locomotives to have been actually built in Hawaii. Wailua Agriculture built her from spare parts from the Malvern Locomotive Works and some specific parts ordered for her to place her in service. There were at least 2 other locomotives built in Hawaii, one by the ORNL and one by the Hilo Railroad, but those are very kind of touch and go. They're vertical boiler, chain driven affairs, very strange little beasts, and up until just a few years ago we didn't even know they existed. In the late 70s, the Hawaiian Railway Society moved from ʻŌlelo to their new location in Ewa, and we've been there for quite some time now. Once established at Ewa, all the equipment from ʻŌlelo was moved to the location in Ewa. The second restoration project undertaken by the Hawaiian Railway Society was not a piece of railroad equipment. It was the right-of-way itself. It had lain without care, overgrown, rusted out, rotten ties, bridges that were questionable, and it originally operated under an agreement with the federal government, and we started restoration of the right-of-way. And we started right there in Ewa where the yard is now, and headed out toward the Waianae direction. Over the years, we have continued to restore, rehabilitate the right-of-way, including the roadbed, replacing ties, replacing rail when necessary, joiner bars. It's a lot of hard work. I used to go out every Sunday when I first became involved with the society in 1990, and we would do track work every Sunday morning. I was a lot younger then. I don't do track work anymore. But fortunately, we have a cadre of guys who go out every Saturday morning to do track work. They start early in the morning and they're back before noon. It is just so darn hot out there that it makes it very difficult. Over the course of the years, over 40 years now, the Hawaiian Railway Society has restored, rehabilitated 7 miles of the original ORNL right-of-way. We have repaired or replaced or restored bridges. We've included new rail. We've done one heck of a lot of work to get that right-of-way operational. We currently operate under a use and occupancy agreement with the state of Hawaii, who owns the right-of-way, and that use and occupancy agreement makes us responsible for the maintenance and care and preservation of the right-of-way, including the bridges and the bridge inspections and all of the ancillary work that goes on. We are not responsible for the new crossing gates and crossings, however, which is helpful. But vegetation control, maintenance, that all falls on the Hawaiian Railway Society. Now, there is a move afoot right now. The state wishes to issue a contract for a outside contractor to take over the maintenance and the vegetation control of the right-of-way. I'm hesitant because the way the contract is written, the Hawaiian Railway Society could actually lose the ability to operate trains on the right-of-way. That is evidently not the intent of the proposal, but there is a significant likelihood that that could be a result. And we hope not, because one of our major sources of income, of course, is giving a rides. But back to restoration, now that we've briefly covered WACO 6 restoration and the right-of-way restoration, which goes on continually to this day, the second piece undertaken was the Oahu Railway and Land Company Parlor Observation Car number 64. Now, 64 may not have had a number when originally built. We have seen it named Ambassador. This was Benjamin Franklin Dillingham's private car. It was built in 1900 in the Honolulu shops of the Oahu Railway and Land Company by designs from John Hughes, who is the master car builder. In its heyday, Parlor Observation Car 64 sported a awning across the back of the car and the sides of the observation platform. It contains a butler's pantry. The chairs were wicker and can be moved about. It was well stocked with adult beverages. It has an ice chest. It has a freshwater tank up in the overhead, and it has a flushing tank also in the overhead. There's actually a sink on board, and it has running water. It was last used by the ORNL on the very last train on the 31st of December, 1947. She was the last passenger car on that train and the last car into Honolulu. You can see that the wraparound awning is gone, and now it's just got the side drawings. But this car is still in excellent shape. Now, the ORNL, I'm sure most of you know, the Dillinghams were involved with the Ala Moana Center project, and as part of the display at Ala Moana on the first phase, it included a display of railroad trains. Switcher number 12 was among those, and Parlor Car 64, Coach 2, Kawila 6. They were all down in the lower level of the first phase of the Ala Moana Center, and it was quite an attraction. So prior to being loaded into the center, the ORNL did cosmetic restorations on all that equipment and then trailered them down for installation. When the second phase of Ala Moana was about to begin construction, that display was removed and all the equipment taken down to, I believe it was Pier 41, where it sat for quite a while before being trucked to Bishop Museum. While it was at Bishop, it was on display, but no maintenance was being conducted, and Bishop was really not in a position to do much with it since it's not in their particular field of expertise. So eventually, once HRS was well established and we were actively involved in restorations and operating trains, that equipment was transferred from the Bishop Museum to the Hawaiian Railway Society for safekeeping. When 64 arrived at the Ewa Yard, she did not appear anywhere close to her former glory. This is what you would call the front end, perhaps. You can see the observation platform in the back, and just behind that there's another locomotive which is now at the Waipahu Cultural Garden Park. That's Pualoa number 7. But 64 was undertaken by a gentleman named Dave Lomas, and Dave virtually did this by himself. Now, he had a lot of help, by all means, but he ran the show and he made sure it happened. So what does it take to do a restoration of a passenger car? Well, when you're starting with something that looks like this, there's a lot of work involved. Now, this is a particularly interesting photograph, and it's difficult to see, but you can see steel ends alongside the wood sills, and there's 4 long pieces of steel. This observation platform takes about 1/3 of the car length. Most unusual for an observation platform, which most cars would be 4 to 6 feet. John Hughes designed this from scratch, and what he designed to support that platform and to support the car is essentially a bridge. In addition to those pieces, other items that caused a great deal of concern was rot, deterioration, and Dave had his work cut out for him to get all this put together. This took a number of years, but we are very happy to say that Parlor Observation Car 64 was completed and is maintained today. We consider this a self-revenue generating piece of equipment. We run this car once a month. There is a premium cost for tickets, and we keep a fixed amount available for any repairs required by this car. Anything above that amount goes into the restoration fund for another car. In this case, most of what 64 earns is funneled into the restoration of Coach 57, which we will talk at a later time. If you want to ride in comfort, if you want to ride like Ben Franklin Dillingham, come out to the railroad, check our website, you'll see when it's going to run. Costs a little more, but I guarantee you, you will be extremely happy, and it's well worth it. Now, I'm not going to try and cover all of the restoration projects that we have accomplished over the years, because there's quite a few. One of the problems that we face, though, we have a very small number of volunteers, and we really would love to have you join us, because we'll restore something, it'll look beautiful, and we move on to the next project, and we're deep into it, and the maintenance starts to lack on the project that we just finished. If you have time, and we're not asking for much, 4 hours on a Saturday or 4 hours on a Sunday, there's always something for you to do. Early on, a volunteer would come out to the railroad and they would get handed a weed whacker. Those days are over. We want to find something you're interested in. If you're a metal worker, if you're a wood crafter, whatever it is your hobby or passion or interest is, we'll try and match you up with a job that will be meaningful to you and make a lasting and positive impression for the railroad. Hawaiian Railway Society was blessed at its inception with a large donation of equipment. The Navy donated 3 diesel locomotives, a number of ammunition boxcars, gondola, a couple of tank cars. The Army donated 1 diesel locomotive and 12 flat cars. As the ORNL was being finally scrapped around 1972-73, members of HRS went to the scrapper and bought individual pieces of equipment and hauled all this stuff out to Locomotive. So we wound up with a extremely large collection and not enough time or bodies or money to take care of it. So unfortunately, some things kind of fell by the wayside and didn't get restored right away. Among those is Locomotive 174. Now, 174 in this photograph looks to be in pretty decent shape, but I guarantee you she is not. Neither of the engines were functional. A number of the engine parts have been cannibalized for the other two diesel locomotives. Two of the brake cylinders have been removed for use on WACO 6. She's severely rusted, and people kind of wrote her off. It's just too big a project. Well, 174 is a significant locomotive. It pulled the very last ammunition train between the Naval Magazine at Lualua and Westlock. This is an important piece of history that we don't want to lose. So, with the help of a guy named Mike Lloyd out of Canada, who would come down every year on his vacation and spend a month working with us, we actually got 174 to fire up on one of her two engines. Excuse me. Once that first engine lit off, that got everybody's attention. It's time to take a more serious look at this locomotive. The decision was made to restore 174 to operation. So during the restoration process, the hoods were repaired, the doors were repaired, a lot of body work was done. The engines were not overhauled, but they were cleaned and made serviceable. New injectors, new fuel system, new filters. We pulled the fuel tank, cleaned it, pulled the air tanks, tested everything, put it all back together again, and finally got the locomotive back in operation. Now, originally, it was determined that we wanted to run 174 in her U.S. Navy markings. So originally she was NAD either number 10, 11, or 12. So she would have been painted gray. Now we don't know exactly which one she was. She was one of those three. So we kind of settled on 11, as we could only be one off either way you go. Excuse me. And subsequent to this photograph, and this is her initial run with a passenger train after overhaul, it was decided that she would be painted more appropriately for the Hawaiian Railway Society rather than historically. So she operates now as Hawaiian Railway Society number 174, USN 65-000174. And she's painted the yellow that the Navy used at the end of her career, where the gray would have been used at the beginning of her career. Also included in this picture is the little black locomotive to the left. That's U.S. Army 7750. She served in Hawaii for a number of years and was recovered from Pier 40, donated by the Army. And she is at last actually marked back up in her original Army configuration, the black cab and the white lettering. She's had the engine overhauled, she's had electrical system overhauled, so she has been restored also, although I'm not going to individually describe that particular restoration. Other items that have been restored by the Society include the last operating steam locomotive of the ORNL. This is number 12. It's an 060 locomotive, switching locomotive with a slope back tender, very unusual for narrow gauge. And she's been cosmetically restored and sits just outside the engine shed. Some additional work is being planned for her. Additional work is being planned for WACO 6. Please come out to the yard and take a look at her. She's really a pretty little locomotive. Eventually, she will be moved outside of our new museum building once we get it built, and she will be part of the display train at the loading platform. So people will have access to her, can get up in the cab, look around. We also plan to have at least 3 boxcars on the loading platform as part of the display area for people to go in and see how those boxcars would have been loaded. What kind of material would they have held? That would be on one side of the car. The other end of the car will be more of the traditional static interpretive displays. While we may be a long way off to build a museum, we are actively engaged every weekend and number of days during the week in restoration projects. If you have an interest or just have curiosity, I invite you to come out, spend some time with us, get to know us. Yeah, we're probably a little bit crazy, but isn't everybody? We'd love to have you come out. We'd love to have you assist. We'd love to have you just for a train ride. There's lots of interesting things to see. There's lots of history to learn and understand. And we have future projects that don't even include having to do anything mechanical, electrical, or physical, but more along the lines of administrative coordination, research, development of displays, and we would love to have your participation. The Hawaiian Railway Society exists because people believe in preserving the history of Hawaii's railroads and the extremely important part they played, which has all but been forgotten, excuse me, over the last few years. So come join us, and I'll see you again.